I'm 50 years old and I still hear that one word in my head like a broken record. Bon. It was just one syllable, one stupid soft little slip in the middle of a perfectly ordinary family dinner. And it detonated my whole life. We were all at the table, me, Scott, our 2 kids. Well, not kids anymore. Our oldest, Emma, had already finished university, moved back home temporarily while she figured out her next steps. Our younger one, Luke, was still in uni, home for the weekend. It was one of those rare evenings when everyone was actually there. No deadlines, no group projects, no, "I'll just eat in my room, Mom." I remember feeling proud, I guess. Tired, but proud. 28 years of marriage, 2 grown children, a nice house in a nice neighborhood. People knew us. We were the Harrisons. Solid, respectable. The kind of couple others pointed to and said, "See? That's what lasting love looks like." If only they'd known. We were passing salad bowls and talking about nothing special. Luke's exams, Emma's job hunt, Scott's crazy quarter at the office. I'd made roast chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, the kind of meal that smells like home even when you're too exhausted to enjoy it properly. I was reaching for the salt when it happened. Scott turned to me and said in this casual, affectionate tone he almost never used, "Bon, can you pass the pepper?" Just like that. Like it was the most natural thing in the world. For a split second, I didn't even react. My hand froze halfway to the salt. It was Emma who moved first. Her eyes flicked up, and she looked at Scott, then at me. And then Luke laughed a little, that nervous, confused laugh. "Did you just call Mom Bon?" he asked. My heart did this weird stutter in my chest. It wasn't just the word, it was the way Scott's face changed. He flinched. It was tiny, but I saw it. A flicker of panic, like a light going out behind his eyes. Then, too quickly, he laughed. No, I said, "Hun," he said, shaking his head like it was all a misunderstanding. "You guys misheard. Right, Hun?" Hun. I stared at him. He has never called me Hun. Not in 28 years. Not honey, not Hun, not sweetie. Scott was always more the, "Jen, did you pay the gas bill?" type. Practical, efficient. We were partners, mainly, teammates, sometimes lovers. But pet names? No, that wasn't him. "It sounded like Bon to me," Emma said, frowning. "I swear I heard Bon too," Luke added. My mouth felt dry. I managed to smile, though my lips trembled. "Yeah, it sounded like that." Scott gave this dramatic sigh and rolled his eyes. "You're all hearing what you want to hear. I said hun. You know, like honey? I guess I can't even be sweet without getting interrogated around here." He said it with that joking edge he used when he wanted to make you feel ridiculous for questioning him. Everyone chuckled awkwardly. The kids shrugged it off. I laughed too, but my skin went cold. Because here's the thing. I knew. I didn't know what I knew, but deep inside, something old and half-buried sat up and stared at me. It was like my body had been waiting for an alarm, and that one word was the siren. Bon. I barely tasted the rest of dinner. I kept replaying it, slowing it down in my head. "Bon, can you pass the pepper?" The way his mouth moved, the way his eyes widened, the way he rushed to change the narrative. Hun. Sure. The fight that night wasn't even a real fight. It was worse than that. "Jen, this is crazy," he said when we were finally alone in the bedroom. "You're going to build a whole drama over one word?" "I just want you to admit what you actually said," I replied. My voice sounded small even to me. "That's all." "I did admit it. I said hun." He repeated it, firm, patient, like I was a child who couldn't keep up. "You've never called me that before." "So I can't try a new word now?" He snapped. The logic was there. It sounded reasonable, but everything in me recoiled from it. "There's something you're not telling me," I said quietly. He laughed. "You're being paranoid. Seriously, Jen, you misheard. The kids misheard. People mishear stuff all the time. I don't know, you're stressed." And that's when the gaslighting started to settle like fog in the room. "Maybe I am," I whispered. "Of course you are. Work, the kids, turning 50. He added with a light tone that felt like a slap. It's normal. But don't turn a nice dinner into a crime scene. I went to bed that night with my back to him. His arm didn't reach for me. It hadn't in a long time. You have to understand something. That word didn't appear in a vacuum. If you rewind our life 12 years back, you land on a different kind of night. I was sick. Really sick. Nothing dramatic enough for a movie, no car crash, no rare brain disease, just a combination of hormonal issues and chronic fatigue that wiped me out. My libido disappeared like someone flipped a switch. I remember lying there staring at the ceiling, feeling older than my years while Scott's breathing grew heavier beside me. He didn't push, at least not at first. He just became quieter, cooler. He started staying at work later. Reports. Deadlines. You know how it is, Jen. I did know, or I thought I did. I blamed myself. I kept thinking, if I were better, if my body wasn't betraying me, he wouldn't have to go looking for warmth somewhere else. But I never asked if he had. I pushed that possibility away, buried it under excuses and routines and the kids' schedules. And then, 12 years later, he said, "Bon." And every bone in my body said, "You were right to be afraid back then." The next morning, I woke up with a knot in my stomach and a decision I couldn't fully admit to myself. I was going to look, not talk, not confront, not sit down and have a calm adult conversation like they tell you to do in marriage counseling pamphlets. No, I was going to dig. His phone was the first thing I went for. Scott was in the shower when I picked it up from his nightstand. My hands were shaking. I told myself, if I find nothing, I'll apologize. I'll cry and tell him I'm sorry for doubting him. But his phone was clean, too clean. No long message threads, no weird unknown numbers, no late-night chats. Most messages were with work colleagues, a few with me and the kids. His call history was short, like it had been cleared not long ago. He stepped out of the bathroom just as I was putting it down, steam drifting around him. "What are you doing?" he asked. "Checking the time," I said. He stared at me a moment too long but didn't say anything. That day, while he was at work and I was working from home, I went through everything. His desk drawers, the little decorative box where he kept old keys, the pockets of jackets he hadn't worn in months, the inside of his gym bag, even though he hadn't gone to the gym in ages. Nothing. No receipts from restaurants I didn't know about, no hotel bills, no movie tickets, no hidden letters, no scribbled notes. The kind of things you see in shows, the obvious clues, weren't there. That should have reassured me. It didn't. Instead, it made me feel like I was losing my mind. Over the next week, the search became a ritual. I'd wait until he fell asleep, flat on his back, snoring lightly. Then I'd slide out of bed, tiptoe around, and start again. His pants in the dirty laundry, the pockets of his coat hanging by the door, his wallet if he left it on the dresser. I took his car keys once when he was in the shower and ran outside to go through his car. I checked the glove compartment, under the seats, in the little storage space between the front seats. I felt under the mats. I even peered into that small gap under the spare tire in the trunk, like I expected a hidden life to be folded and tucked away in there. Nothing. Always nothing. I started noticing the way dust gathered under furniture, the way cobwebs had formed in the corners of the garage, the way the laundry basket never seemed to empty. It all felt so ordinary, so peaceful. Meanwhile, inside me, there was a constant screaming. I went through old boxes in the attic, looking for what, I don't even know. I opened books he hadn't touched in years, shook them out to see if anything fell from between the pages. I checked old coat linings, feeling for strange bumps or stitches. I went through the toolbox in the garage, the drawers in the kitchen, the ugly ceramic vase his mother had given us that we never used. Nothing. One night, I found myself standing in the hallway at 3 a.m, holding one of his work shirts up to my face, sniffing it like some kind of deranged bloodhound, trying to detect unfamiliar perfume, shampoo, body lotion, sweat, anything. All I got was fabric softener and faint deodorant. I remember whispering to myself, "You're insane, Jennifer. You're actually insane." My voice cracked, and I had to press my fist against my mouth to keep from waking him up. But then I'd see him the next morning, smiling in that distant, polite way, asking, "Coffee?" and kissing my forehead instead of my lips, and the certainty would come back. Something was wrong. He didn't touch me like a husband. He touched me like a roommate he had to be nice to. One Monday morning, I made the decision. I stood in front of the bathroom mirror looking at my face. 50. Lines around my eyes deeper now from the lack of sleep. I looked tired but not fragile. I looked like a woman who could still handle a lot. And I told myself, if I'm crazy, I want proof. I called my manager, my voice already trembling. "Hi, I'm not feeling well. I need to take a sick leave, a few days, maybe more." True, in a way. I wasn't well. Not mentally, not emotionally. Something inside me was cracking. I didn't say a word to Scott. When he left for work, I waited exactly 10 minutes, then grabbed my keys and followed. That first day, I parked half a block away from his office, just close enough to see the front door, but far enough not to be too obvious. The building was boring. Gray, glass, anonymous. People going in and out, all in similar clothes, carrying laptops and coffee cups. Another world of reports and deadlines and numbers. My heart pounded every time the door opened. I sat in the car from 9 in the morning until late afternoon. I watched him come out around noon with a colleague, go across the street to a casual cafe, eat a sandwich, talk about something that made him laugh. Then he went back in. No secret women, no side glances, no mysterious cars. By 5, he came out again, got into his car, and drove home. It was the most boring, humiliating day of my life. On the way back, I cried so hard my chest hurt. I kept thinking, you did this. You sat outside like some stalker. You are the problem. You've become the crazy wife everyone jokes about. That night I almost told him, almost said, "Scott, I followed you today. I sat outside your office like a fool." But the words died on my tongue. Instead, I lay beside him, staring at the ceiling in the dark, feeling the distance like a cold ocean between us. The next morning I told myself something I half believed and half used as an excuse. I will follow him one more time. Just once more. And if I see nothing, if it's all normal again, I'll drop it. Forever. I'll never look again. I'll accept that I am paranoid and I'll live with that shame quietly. It sounded like a deal. Like a fair last chance. On the second day, I packed a thermos of coffee and a sandwich. I remember that detail because it made me feel ridiculous and prepared at the same time, like I was going on a stakeout in a bad detective movie. From 9 in the morning, I sat there again, watching that door. For hours, nothing strange happened. People went in, people came out. Scott stayed inside, as far as I could tell. Around noon, he came out with a different colleague. They walked a little farther down the street this time, to a nicer place. I watched them through the windshield as best I could. There was nothing intimate, nothing suspicious. Just two men talking over lunch. At 3, my butt was numb, my mind fried, and the shame was back, louder than ever. "You're a terrible wife," a voice in my head hissed. "You don't trust him. You followed him, twice. You are sick." I was about to start the car and drive home to force myself to stop when my phone rang. His name flashed on the screen. "Hey," I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. "Hey, Jen," he said in that casual, weary tone. "Just wanted to let you know I'll be home late." My eyes flicked up to the office door. He was still inside. "Late?" I asked. "How late?" "Very late. We've got urgent reports to finish, some stuff for tomorrow's presentation. Might even crash on the office sofa, honestly." He laughed a little like this was some heroic hardship. "Oh," I said. "Okay. Should I keep dinner for you?" "Nah, don't wait up. Get some rest. You worry too much about everything. Love you." "Love you," I replied automatically. I hung up, and then, less than 10 minutes later, I saw him. Scott walked out of the building, alone. No laptop bag, just his regular work bag. He didn't look tired or burdened or like a man facing an all-nighter. He looked normal, relaxed even. My hands went cold on the steering wheel. He got into his car and started driving. So did I. He headed out of the city, away from our side of town. The farther we went, the more my heart pounded. Those neat suburbs with manicured lawns and small, cozy houses, the kind you see in brochures about simple family life. He turned onto a quieter street lined with trees and stopped in front of a small, cream-colored house with blue shutters. There was a little garden in front, kids' toys scattered near the porch. It looked peaceful, safe, lived in. Home. He got out of the car, walked up the path, and went straight to the door. No knocking, no hesitation. He just opened it with his own key and stepped inside like he belonged there. I sat there, frozen. This was it. I knew. I didn't even need to see her yet. My body knew before my mind caught up. I waited. I waited as minutes stretched into an hour, then 2. The light outside shifted from afternoon brightness to that soft, golden pre-evening glow. People came and went from neighboring houses. Someone walked their dog. A kid rode a bike down the sidewalk. I watched the windows. At one point, shadows moved behind the curtains, shapes, motion, life. I clutched the steering wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. Part of me wanted to drive away, to pretend I'd never seen him walk in, to go home, cook dinner, and choose ignorance like a blanket. But I couldn't. When it finally got dark enough that you could see clearly into the lit windows from outside, I stepped out of the car. My legs felt like they didn't quite belong to me. I walked around the side of the house, my heart banging in my ears. The grass was damp. There was a tiny patio out back, a couple of potted plants, a toy car left near the wall. I moved closer to one of the windows, staying in the shadows. And that's when I saw them. Scott was on the couch. He was sitting comfortably, like he'd sat there 1,000 times, not a guest but a resident. His arm was around a woman, and they were both leaning forward slightly, watching something in front of them. In front of them was a boy, 8 or 9, maybe 10. He was doing a little dance, awkward and excited, like kids do when they're making something up on the spot. He spun around, stumbled a bit, then laughed at himself. Scott and the woman laughed too. Not politeness, not forced. Real warm laughter. Scott clapped once, called out something I couldn't hear. His face lit up in a way I hadn't seen in years. He looked happy. My husband looked happy. The woman beside him, I knew her. Miss Brooks, Bonnie Brooks, my kid's old math teacher, the one who used to tell me at parent-teacher conferences, "Emma's very bright, you should be proud," and "Luke just needs a bit more confidence, but he's got the potential." Always calm, always neatly dressed, never a ring on her finger. I knew she wasn't married. We'd talked about it once, briefly, in a tired, friendly way outside the school. "I guess I just never found the right guy," she'd said with a shrug and a smile. Apparently, she had. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up right there in the backyard. I must have gasped. It wasn't even intentional. It just burst out of me, a small, strangled sound. But it was enough. The boy froze mid-movement. His eyes darted to the window. Our eyes met, wide, frightened brown eyes and my hollow, shocked stare. He flinched and stepped back, calling out for someone. Scott and Bonnie turned. I watched it all play out in a second that felt like an eternity. Bonnie's face went white. She lurched to her feet. Scott's features twisted into something between horror and fury. Bonnie moved first. She grabbed the boy. I heard her say, "Come here, sweetheart," and hurried him out of the room. Her hands shook when she touched him. Scott stood there for a moment, his chest rising and falling. Then he disappeared from my view. A few seconds later, I heard the front door open. He was waiting for me on the porch when I walked around from the backyard, my legs barely carrying me. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" He snapped before I could say a word. His voice was low but vicious. "How dare you?" "How dare I?" I repeated, my throat burning. "How dare you, Scott, after all these years?" We were standing there glaring at each other like two strangers who'd collided on the street. The porch light cast harsh shadows on his face. He looked older, meaner. "You followed me?" he hissed. "You've been spying on me? What is wrong with you?" "What's wrong with me?" I laughed, a broken sound. "I'm not the one who has a secret family in the suburbs." He flinched just a little. "This isn't what you think," he said. "Oh, really?" I threw my arm out toward the house. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like what I think. You, your Bon, and a little boy dancing in your living room." "Keep your voice down," he snapped, glancing back at the door. "You're scaring him." "Good," I said, though the word tasted like ash. "He should be scared. His father is a liar." "Don't you dare bring him into this," Scott said, stepping closer. "You don't know anything." "Is he your son?" I asked. My voice shook. "Is that boy your son, Scott?" The door opened a crack behind him. Bonnie appeared, pale and tense. "Please," she said, her voice shaky. "Both of you, stop shouting. Little Scotty is scared." Little Scotty. My world tilted. "You named him after yourself," I whispered. "Of course you did." "Jennifer, please," Bonnie said, taking a step out but staying half inside. "Can you two talk somewhere else? This is too much for him." I stared at her. At the woman who'd sat across from me at those tiny school desks, who'd given my children grades and homework and warm little smiles. "I see you don't respect yourself at all," I said quietly. "You knew about our family. You knew about our children." A muscle jumped in her jaw. Tears filled her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I laughed again, this time with more bitterness than sound. "Oh, are you? That fixes everything." Scott reached for my arm. "Let's go home and talk there," he said. "I'll explain everything." But there was nothing left I wanted to hear. I pulled my arm back. "You've been explaining everything for years," I said. "Reports, deadlines, office sofas, Hun." He winced. "You walked in there like you belonged," I continued. "You sat on that couch like you'd sat there every night for the last decade. You looked at that boy like—" My voice cracked. I couldn't finish. "Like a father. Because he was." I turned away from him, from her, from the soft yellow light spilling out of that cozy little house that was never mine, and I walked back to my car. He didn't follow. I don't remember driving home. I don't remember turning the key in the ignition or whether the radio was on. I don't remember the traffic lights or the streets. I remember arriving. I remember the silence. I walked into our big, neat, respectable house, and the emptiness nearly knocked me over. All those family photos on the walls, the fireplace, the polished table where we ate our dinners, the kitchen where I cooked his favorite meals, the bedroom where we hadn't truly touched each other in years. I stood in the middle of the living room and thought, he has another life, a whole other life, another living room, another couch, another kid. The rage came slowly, like heat rising from deep underground. I went into the garage and saw it. The gasoline canister we kept for emergencies, for the lawnmower, for anything but what entered my mind. I picked it up. It wasn't heavy. It should have been heavier. I walked back to the car, opened the trunk, tossed it in. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the keys. I got in, sat down, stared at the steering wheel. In my mind, I saw the house again. The blue shutters, the warm light, the boy dancing, Scott's arm around Bonnie, their laughter. I saw all the years he'd come home late, smelling faintly, not of another woman, but of time spent elsewhere. I saw myself sniffing his shirts like a maniac, searching for a truth that wasn't on the fabric but written in his absence. I saw that boy's face, frightened at the window. I turned the key. The engine started. And then something broke inside me. Not the way it had been breaking, quietly, slowly, for years, but all at once. Loud. I put the car in park and let my hands fall into my lap. "What are you doing?" I whispered to myself. "Who are you right now?" I saw flames in my mind, saw headlines, saw the looks on Emma's and Luke's faces when the police told them their mother had burned down their father's other life, saw their shame, their horror, my kids. Whatever Scott had done, whatever Bonnie had chosen, my children still only had one mother. I sat there and sobbed, ugly, shaking sobs that scraped my throat raw. I cried for the girl I used to be, for the young woman who'd married him, believing they were building one life, not two overlapping ones. For the 38-year-old me who'd been sick and exhausted and blaming herself for not wanting sex, while he was probably already slipping away into someone else's bed or couch. I cried until there were no tears left. And then I turned the engine off. I took the gasoline canister out of the trunk, put it back in the garage, closed the door, and leaned against it. "I'm not that person," I whispered. "I'm not going to become a monster because he is a liar." It wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't acceptance. It was survival. The best revenge wasn't a crime. The best revenge would be living a life where he was just a man who had cheated and lost everything that mattered. 1 year later, we were divorced. It sounds quick when I say it like that. It wasn't. There were lawyers, papers, arguments over assets, late-night emails, cold mornings in court corridors. He tried to negotiate, to minimize, to act like it was all a mistake that had gotten out of hand. "I never meant to hurt you," he said once. "As if you tripped and fell into a second family?" I answered. He didn't have a good response to that. The kids. That was the hardest part. I told Emma and Luke everything. Not all the details, not the gasoline, not the near nightmare. But I told them about Bonnie, about the house, about the boy, about how long it had been going on. They listened in silence. Emma cried. Luke punched a wall, then apologized to the wall. "It's your relationship with him," I told them. "I won't make that choice for you. You decide if you want him in your lives." They did decide. They stopped talking to him. It wasn't a dramatic, screaming cutoff, it was quiet. Emma stopped replying to his texts. Luke muted him. They told him simply, "We need time. You lied to us for almost a decade. We don't know who you are." Time passed. They still didn't call. Scott's disappointment didn't move me. He had disappointed them first. As for Bonnie, she left the school after everything got out. Parents talk. Rumors spread fast in tight little communities. Math teacher having a long-term affair with a married man. Child conceived while the wife was at home, sick and exhausted, trusting. Her reputation crumbled. She sent me a letter once. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity is a stubborn thing. In it, she told me her story, how her father had been cruel, how Scott was the first person who'd ever been truly kind to her, how she believed at first that he'd leave me, that he'd just needed time, that he was waiting for the right moment, how she'd clung to that hope like a lifeline. Then, she wrote, she realized he never would, that he would go on keeping both lives, both women, both worlds, seeing her once a week for a few hours and then going back to his real life with me, with our kids. But she couldn't let go. "He is the love of my life," she wrote, "and I thought it was better to see him sometimes than never at all. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't change anything, but I am sorry." I folded the letter, put it back in the envelope, and shoved it into a drawer. Her pain did not erase mine. Her excuses did not erase 28 years of my life being shared like a cake between two households. I sometimes wonder if she ever thought of me when she watched him fall asleep beside her on that couch. If she thought of my children when her son called him Dad. Maybe she did. Maybe she didn't. It doesn't matter anymore. People ask me quietly how I didn't see it sooner. The answer is complicated and painfully simple. I did see it. I just refused to believe my own eyes. I saw the distance, the late nights, the new cologne phase, the way his phone became something he always kept face down on the table, the way he shut the door when he took certain calls, the way he flinched just for a second when I walked into the room unexpectedly. I saw the way his touches became rarer, quicker, more perfunctory. The way our intimacy shrank to perfumed air and, "Good night, Jen." I saw all of it. But I also saw the man who'd held my hand in the hospital when I was sick and scared. The father who'd cheered the loudest at our kids' school plays. The husband who'd danced with me in our tiny kitchen when we were young and broke and thought love was enough. So I decided that my fears were the problem, not his behavior. It took one wrong name to finally tip the scales. Bon? Now I'm learning how to live with myself again. I keep busy. That's my strategy. I go to work. I take long walks. I sign up for classes I don't even know if I'll finish. Cooking, yoga, a short story workshop I'm still not sure I belong in. I see friends more often, even the ones I'd let drift away while I was busy being a wife and mother. I'm learning how to eat dinner alone at a table that once felt too small for all the life around it. I'm learning how to go to bed without someone's indifferent breathing beside me. I'm learning how to live knowing that for 12 years, my husband's heart, body, and time were split in two, and I only ever had the half he could spare. The biggest wound isn't just the cheating, it's the lies. It's the way he looked me in the eye at that dinner table in front of our children and tried to rewrite reality in real time. Hun, I know what I heard. I heard the truth breaking through for 1 second, disguised as a slip of the tongue, and I heard the end of my marriage in a name that was never mine.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and explore our channel for more love, betrayal, and redemption tales.